Well, hello again, fans, gang, whatever. Today, I'm going to take you through my method of creating deep nostrils and the use of a common, what they call the milk jug septum. Now, this was a method that was shown to me by Joe Combs, Mr. Whitetail, years ago. I use it every day in every deer, and it is successful. My clients love the look, and if done properly, this can be also used for competition nostril work and septums. I do not use a Dremel tool. The new foam that we have today is a looser, or I should say larger cell foam than the foams of the forms in the past. That was the new regulations to protect our environment, regardless of what the orange idiot wants to do with our environment. I'm still, my preference is for the wider cell foam, and it's so soft that the inside of it, the interior of the foam is soft enough that you can not get away, but you can actually model the nostril openings with a simple modeling tool. And I'll show this up close. This is my all-time favorite modeling tool. See if we can get a focus on that here. We can get a focus on this. There we go. Just like so. It's like a spoon end here. Okay. And the other end is more of a spear point, or an arrow point. Okay. Modeling tool. It's called a riffler file. We have a curve end on one side, and we have this really nice little spear type point on the other side. I use various reference material besides photos. We have some three-dimensional castings, some 3D castings. This one is the famous Brian Eppley nose cast. It's a 3-piece nose cast. Okay, very, very detailed. Very detailed. You can go crazy using this one. Okay. Also, from Headquarters Taxidermy Supply, there are some nice replacement noses that are available and that do very, very well to use as a reference cast. Deep nostrils. You know, if you want to use the entire nose, that's fine. I'm going to be doing that on my own personal deer. I've had clients who have seen these castings hanging in my shop and asked about them, and I was able to incorporate them into their mounts for an additional fee, of course. That's these things are about $14.95. You figure with shipping, it's close to 20 bucks to get these in. So you have to mark up accordingly. But we're going to start this. This is what I'm going to call, I'm going to try to do like a real-time nostril carving. So with that, we're going to get started. Okay, here on my work table, what I've got is the quote-unquote milk jug. You can also use, you know, a jug from bottled water, whatnot, and we're looking for the textured portion right here, okay, and the textured portion along the bottom of the jug. We cut those pieces off, and I store them in a little plastic bin. This is a lettuce container from years ago. You can hear the sound. The texture is very nice. They are then cut into individual pieces. I cut out a shape, sort of a double-ended shape, as you can see here. All right. After the shape is cut out, it's folded in half, and it's at the fold. It's held. It's pressed down tight using the eye of the handle on a scissors. So I can get this darn thing to focus here. There we go. There we are. Then I can evenly trim the proper shape of the septum. I then use a red Sharpie marker and I vein the heck out of the inside of it. Okay. What I showed the modeling tool that I use to hollow out the nostrils. To cut the slot for the septum to fit into, I use a miter saw. What I like about this, it's a stiff enough blade, yet thin stiff blade, and this goes right down the center of the nose of the mannequin, and you will see that demonstrated. Gives a nice straight, deep line. Another item I've started using, well, you can use, of course, an LED flashlight. Get yourself a good bright one. This one has got several settings. Also has SOS in case I ever get stuck and need help. Also, these Energizer LED headlights are really marvelous for hands-off illumination. Okay, they illuminate the subject. They're adjustable up and down. They're adjustable, and they give you a real good hands-free lighting. So with that, of course, a pencil. I use a couple of sets of cheaters. These are those little cheap $10 glasses you can get in any grocery store, supermarket, Walmart, anywhere. These are so I can get in nice and close. So with that, the first thing that's done here, as you can see, hopefully, is the shape of the nostril that's going to be cut out has in fact been traced out on the foam with a pencil, a nice dark pencil. No soft lead, hard lead, whatever. Doesn't really matter. And we're going to start carving the nostrils. And here we go. I've got my headlight on, got my modeling tool, and I've got my nose cast. And I use the nose cast as my guide for carving out the nostrils. So, start by going in along the top first. Okay. And if you keep it inside the lines a little bit, not exactly right on the lines, you'll be better off because you can then widen it. It's easier to take more away than it is to try and replace the foam. And you will be taking more away by using the Riffler file. So we've got this here, like so. And now with the spear end of the modeling tool, we pop this little bit out. Sure, we just pop that right out. Sure we do. There we go. Now there's a little detail found here on the nostrils. Right here, there's a little gland deep inside the nostrils. And it's located right here. We'll point that out with this, like so. And we're going to recreate that on the nose. It takes less time to actually do it than it does for me to stand here and demonstrate and explain. So maybe when I do the next nostril, I'll keep my big mouth shut and just do the work. Yay, yay. Oh, here we go. You want to go deep towards the back of the nostrils, up and down and around. Remembering that you don't want to open all this up along this line here. You don't want to open all that up. That can be indented and the skin will lay along there. Because if you look at a nostril casting or a photo of a live deer, you will notice, in fact, that that's just, it's not hollow. It's not, it goes in a little bit, and we will deepen that some, but it is not part of the hollow nostril. It's not part of the hollow nostril structure. Okay? So now we are going to pop out more foam. Like so. Blow that in there and come out. Let's see. Sometimes they pop right out. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they feel like a nut. Sometimes they don't. There we go. There we go. There we are. Now we can take our riffler file and get in there and just enlarge the opening just a wee bit more. Okay, going toward the back, and up front like so. Remember, I'm not looking to make a deer that's straining and panting and blowing like crazy through his nose. Now, we've got a nice effect here. Oops, that's kind of bright. Let's see if we can knock it down one. No, knock it down another. All right, that's a little better. Let's see here. And you can see how it's shining through from the other side, which has not been hollowed. So now we're going to go to the other side. Okay. Let's trace out the area to be hollowed out. And get to it. Now I'm making sure I'm going back far enough into the nostrils. I'm taking enough off the bottom floor of the nostril. I'm going to hook that and bring it forward. And then we're going to take it out. Okay. Now at this point, when Joe Combs pointed this method out to me, he says, okay, now I'm going to do something to blow your mind. He didn't blow in my nose like that. But what he did was he broke through the other side. he had me come up and show him how I hollow out nostrils. Then he took it to the next step, the next level, and broke through. Broke through the middle wall between the two nostrils. That's what I've done right here. That's why I can blow through the material. All right. The nostril is now opened. It is now hollow. And it goes up into the back of the nostril as well. Now we take a septum, and there are various different sizes of septum here. This is a good size deer, so we'll use a good size septum. I'm now going to take the miter saw, and I'm going to use the central seam of the head form as my guide. I'm going to start on the tip of the nose. Like so. Keeping the saw blade vertical and centered. Now, I start angling downward towards the lower lip, but I don't go through the lower lip. Once I've got a good bite, I then level out the saw blade and go down the front of the deer's nasal ridge. There we go. Okay. I can now take the shaped septum. I'm just going to make sure that the fold is down as tight and thin as I can get it. I'm using the handle of my heavy-duty scissor here, and I pressed against the septum down on my stainless steel work table. And I'm going to insert this like so. Now, sometimes it takes a little bit of doing to get it down there, but it do go down. There we go. We get a little hammer. And we just lightly tap that down below the top surface of the head form. And what we now have inserted is a septum. Now, you can paint the inside of the septum, or you can leave it like this, because after, I have found that after the epoxy work is done and the skin is installed, there's very little color that needs to be added to the septum. What shows more than anything else are the veins. And when this is brought together, the two sides are drawn together, you've got a beautiful effect. Okay? So, what I do now is I check the interior, make sure it's down on the floor of the nostrils. Okay, I carved down a little too low. That doesn't matter, because, I'll tell you why. Inside the nostrils, on the floor of the nostril, the epoxy is going to be laid in there. And I use the flesh-colored AV Studio epoxy sculpt. You mix it with water, and when you apply it, you use alcohol. Alcohol tends to evaporate faster than water, so the thing does not get oversaturated. But there is the installation of a septum. Your clients will love it, my clients love it, and I always make sure to point it out to them. And you can also make sure that it's down far enough in there. Go to the back of the septum where it's folded and simply press the modeling tool in there. Press it down. You can then go in the side and push down. There we go. Now it's making contact with the bottom of the nose. And there's little bits of foam that can be taken out using the spear point end of the modeling tool. Blow the excess out. And we got it. Done and done. The next thing to do is to fill the interior of the nostril. When you do that, you have this finished look that we have here. Like so. And that seam that we cut down the center of the nasal ridge is filled in with excess epoxy so that the skin will not dry and pull down into the slot. But there you have it. And there's all the interior detail. This can be seen. It's carried over, right over to the other side. Okay. Like so. Just like so. And this form happens to be fully prepped and ready for application of the hide, the cape. But here is all the interior detail. And you can see that's solid. And here also you can see, here you can see the indented portion that I was referring to on the casting. And the way that was created, this spear tip riffle file is simply pressed into the foam to create that indentation. That doesn't have to be hollow all the way through, not that part, not that part. So there you have it. And you can see what I meant about the flesh color of the epoxy actually creating a reflective flesh tone inside the entire nostril. And when the hide is in place, it makes the effect even more convincing. And here, on the one we just worked on, I'm going to show that indentation being created. And then we use the rounded end of the file to enhance and go down a little further. Bring out some foam. After it's pressed, and here we have it. And here we have it. Just that easy. And just for 100% transparency, just so you know, any tool you have handy can be used to create this little deep section here. This is the handle of a cartilage knife. That can be utilized. If you have another modeling tool, for instance, I have the old Jonas modeling tool. That can be utilized. Anything that presses together the open cell foam will work. Okay? And you create a little indentation. And that's all it needs. That's all it needs. And then for that little glandular dip, the little cavity for the little glandular area in the nostrils. You can create that like so. I like to use my modeling tool because I'm comfortable using my modeling tool, but any tool can work. The newer foam has more open cell, what I was calling wider cells, more open cell. You could use, to create that, you could use a nail setter to get in there and create that gland pit right there. Anything. And all you have to do is press. Because once you've hollowed out those nostrils, all the structure around it can be worked by pressure. And I mean, once you collapse those cells, they're not going to pop back up. Okay, they're not going to pop back up. So once that's done, it's done. Now I hope this is clear. I hope this is coming in clear. But right here is a little indentation for that gland, created with a variety of tools: modeling tool, cartilage knife, the steel nail set, anything. So now we've got a really well detailed nostril interior. Okay? And there it is. There you have it. There you have it. Easy as pie. Actually, I think making a pie is a little more complicated than this. But it's that easy. It's just that easy. It's very simple. You don't have to use the Dremel motor tool. You don't have to kick up a lot of foam dust everywhere. I have two places that I work. This here is being done in my basement shop. This is where I do the mounting, especially when it's very, very, very hot and warm and muggy outside like it is today, or very cold during the wintertime. I come down here, I can maintain the temperature at a good 62 degrees, 60, 62, 65 degrees. I have a little eye heater I use down here. The messy work is done in my outbuilding. And that's where I will use my form roughers to rough up the surface of the form. I've begun using, I used to use file cards, always file cards. I've just recently started using these form roughers being sold by Joe Combs. These things are great. They're basically a brass brush that you would put in a drill, and they're mounted into wooden handles. There are two sizes. You got this large one and this smaller one. The smaller one is good for facial details around the lips and whatnot. On the underside here, great for getting into the eye sockets and roughing them up. But this gets in close and tight, even around where the head block is located on the inside, and where the end of the form, where the headboard is molded in. I just started using some of those tools. They're pretty good. I like them. But that's the messy work that gets done in my outbuilding. I have a shop vac at the ready at all times, and as soon as I'm done making all that dust, I vacuum it all up. The mounting, the paper mache work on the top of the skull plate, the mounting, the clay work, that all gets done down here. This is where the deer get mounted. This is where they sit to dry. During the drying time, I shut the heater off, cover the face with damp paper, a damp terry cloth towel, white terry cloth towel, cover that in plastic, and then let that stay a couple of days. I take the plastic and the towel off, make any adjustments if needed, and this is where they get mounted and where they dry. Very convenient. I do my messy work outside in a big building. I do my finer work down here in my basement shop. Works for me. It's great. So I hope this was informative. I hope you got something out of it. I remember Joe did blow my mind when he showed me this the first time. It was just for sure. It's impressive. The clients like it. Yeah, I always point it out when they look at their deer up on the wall when it's finished. I always go around the backside with a little flashlight, turn it on and go, and there's the septum of the deer. I go, that's just what you see on a live deer. And then I'll show them a photo of a live deer, where I have photos where I actually took a flashlight to the other side of a deer's muzzle and had someone snap the photo for me. So I do have shots like that. And once they see it, they're like, boy, that's some detail. It's impressive. clients are happy. That's what matters. Happy clients. Like I say, you can, this is a less expensive way, but a very detailed way of doing this. You can go with a more expensive method using the little cast nose. Or the way I used to do it, the way we were all shown back in the 80s, cut the nose off, Dremel out from the back, Dremel down from the front, install the septum, glue it back on, and it was a lot of work. But in the 80s, the foam was a tighter cell foam. It was a smaller cell foam. It was very dense. This is more open foam. You touch a Dremel to this, and dust flies. And it's very difficult to control. This is a much more controlled method using modeling tools and files. I like it. I hope you like it too. Until we meet again, adios amigos.